Good morning and welcome to Vision in Action Live. I'm Jim Boswell. I'm your host and the author of Lifelong Fulfillment, Take Charge of Your Life. On the Vision in Action podcast, we focus on point solutions and expert knowledge that it takes to work on your own personal development. These are the puzzle pieces that allow you to construct the complete picture of your best life. And to do this, we bring you representative experts from every conceivable discipline that can inform your thinking about your own journey toward lifelong fulfillment. Welcome. Well, today we have a discussion with Grace Simon, who is a breakthrough and success coach, a certified speaker and trainer. Ms. Simon is credentialed by John C. Maxwell and Empowerment Living in neuro-linguistic patterning, emotional quotient DISC, and she's a founding member of the Dr. Robert Cialdini Institute. I hope I said that right. Ms. Simon, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you with us on Vision in Action today.
Thank you so much, Jim, for having me on your podcast today. I'm really excited to do this interview with you.
Well, good. If there's anything I might have missed that's important for perspective for the audience about your background, please share that with them at this point.
Yeah, well, I'm a woman that likes to keep myself, comprised of a few different roles, it seems. I'm a mom, been married for 31 years, a mother of four, and my daughter says, that your prize definition is that I had three children by 26 years old, and we had our fourth at 38, 13 years later. And in between that, I became a realtor when I was 31. And once my three kids all were off to school, and halfway in between there, I decided to run for city councilor. I made three big decisions in my life on 2018. My real estate, I was in a traditional brokerage that we all know very well, that traditional model, like a Remax, Coldwell Banker. And I jumped into a tech style, innovative brokerage that really breaks the mold of real estate. But people would say, "Are you crazy for taking that on? Are you crazy for breaking the mold and going out of tradition?" So I jumped into a new brokerage. I became certified with John C. Maxwell, and I ran for city council all in the same year. And I say right now, I'm still trying to catch up to myself and making those decisions. But I really found making those decisions, Jim, that it really accelerated and catapulted me into a lifestyle of really living by what I believe, that we have limitless possibility. So when you're describing some of the things that I did, one of the areas is you spelled out DISC. It's actually an acronym for DISC, and it's a behavioral analysis. So many of you probably in the corporate world, or have had a team or organization, when you go to hire or you're working with groups of people building a team, you do like a behavioral analysis to really understand who is working well together and who isn't, or maybe people being in the wrong position, or where areas that they could really use some support and action steps. And so that's what I do, is to help build teams and organizations in understanding people's behavior. NLP is a practice of helping people to gain a greater awareness and understanding for their emotions and their attitudes, and shifting them forward to remove barriers. So in a nutshell, just a clarification of some of the things that I apply and what I do.
Now, do you not do individual coaching?
I
Okay.
sure do. I
Oh, you
sure
do? Okay.
do. Yes,
All
yes.
right.
Typically
So corporate,
I'll go into an organization and
yeah,
do like a team training, and then work with individuals on the side to help build
right.
structure and help mitigate some issues
Well,
in the area. And
in
then
my,
I work with realtors and salespeople on a one-to-one basis.
yeah. Well, in my experience coming up through business, your types of services are the very things that ran me into thinking different ways about my own choices, my own knowledge, my own, you know, undetermined psychological background. So uh,
Great.
I appreciate the profession quite a bit.
Oh, that's great.
So let's look at that. From a corporate perspective, I know, corporations, they deal with psychology because psychology helps them improve results when well tasked, right? And many of the people, the first time they hear about DISC or Myers-Briggs or whatever, they're not likely necessarily to have seen that in their college years or early on. So it's kind of a surprise. What does that mean? And they're also still, maybe if they're of the younger set, maybe leaving behind some of their preconceived notions that, they acquired during their, high school years, college years, from their parents, from their neighborhoods, things like that. So maybe you can use that as a springboard to tell us how that works now in the corporate space. Uh, why are corporations, do they have to be in trouble to do this, or do you find that they're being proactive, or how does that work? How do you wind up at their doorstep giving them what you have to offer?
Yeah, interesting. Well, you know what? We live in a really interesting time, don't we? A
Yes.
time of great certainty, but not just that we're in a time of great uncertainty of the present and the future, but we're working with a great diversity. Like we are seeing generations coming together to work in an organization, in a workspace, and the generations are so gapped, they're so different that a lot of the teams and organizations are having a hard time just with communication styles because
Right.
everyone thinks and believes and moves and shows up so differently.
Hmm.
And so I think that is finding that that's one of the greatest needs right now in organizations and corporate and even sales. When working with salespeople, is the understanding of, who you're working with and getting a definition of, you know, why are you here? Like, why did you choose this profession in the first place? Like, it's not, I think, with a lot of experts or, graduates coming out of university or, you're choosing a career based upon your environment, your upbringing, what you're told you should look, or consider to do. You
Hmm.
behave a certain way, think a certain way. So therefore you fit into a certain box. And in today's society, we don't function as well as what maybe the baby boomer generation did, where that's just how it worked, right? You finished high school, you maybe went to college and university or
Right.
not. You found yourself into a position and you worked your way up really, really hard, and you worked really, really hard, sacrificing everything else to move up to that corporate ladder, and you just did it, right? Whereas today's society is like, I want workplace balance. I want my life to mean something, when
Hmm.
I'm going to work every day. It's not enough for me just to show up for work. I want to have a meaning and a purpose to that. So with all the Briggs and the DISC and, doing a behavioral analysis, when I'm working with people one-on-one, I like to start there. Start there with the desire of why you're doing what you're doing. Who are you doing it for, and why does it matter? And Jim, it really doesn't matter. I have learned working with people, it doesn't really matter if you are opening doors for people. If
Hmm.
you're, working at a hotel and that is your role and you're opening doors for people, or you're the one that is actually running the function of the hotel. Everybody needs to start at that place of desire, right? Of desire of your life and bringing a bigger purpose and then working around, like, your purpose is like the sun, everything revolves around that. So it's really interesting that when I dig into people with one-on-one and just get them to be enlightened and to consider, to invite them into a place of consideration of purpose and why you are doing what you're doing, and how we can take a mundane situation, mundane job or life, and incorporate it into a bigger purpose, a bigger reason, and create a vision around that. Then people get excited, to have an understanding of the people around them, great, heightening the EQ and just wanting to show up more for themselves and their family and the people that they're working with. So it's a lot of fun. When we talk about digging deeper, I really love to go deep, deep and wide and high.
Yeah. Yeah. Being retired from a career path, I do find it a very interesting challenge to think about working in the real world today because of the generational issues and the frictions involved and the expectations. You're right. Baby boomers were much more accepting of duty to job and family and so forth, and not afraid too much about the hard work. That was pretty well drilled into us. I think expectations have changed quite drastically. And yes, balance is good, but it seems like we have sort of also overtipped the balance in other directions. So it's become a challenge, I think, inside the business community to make that all gel and make all those forces get focused on the business side of the issue, but where it's answering also to each of those perspectives. Yeah, quite a difficult time.
It really is because everybody's approach is very different. And now we're, sanctioned on when we were born is defining how we think, move, and act, right? Where that vocabulary, that language is never a thing prior to.
Right.
But now we're at a time where everything has to be considered because we are all merging together and working together. And it's so interesting, Jim. This Generation Z that's coming up, they are a force. You got the millennials that we're still understanding the way that they work and show up or don't show up, and how they want to work and how they communicate. But then we have this Generation Z that's coming in, and my daughter is 11, and so she is a force coming in. When she graduates and comes into the work field, it's going to be like nothing you could ever imagine. We were at an event on Saturday. We were at a barbecue, a community barbecue, and standing there around we were with a police officer, a mayor, myself, a counselor, and my daughter, 11.
Hmm.
And she's side talking with the mayor, and she says, "So, Mayor, do you think you're going to run again for mayor?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, how many terms are you going to be running for? Like, are you running? You're going to run again next year, but how many other terms are you going to run for? Are you going to run for one, two, three, whatever?" I could see in his eyes that he was like, "Why is this? Why is she asking me, these questions?" And so I spoke with them yesterday because I thought, oh dear, the mayor is going to be worried that I'm going to be running against him. My 11-year-old's asking this question. So I said, I need to have a conversation with him because he's going to be like, coming to term, looking to see if I'm going to throw my name in to compete against him. And, I said, isn't that interesting? Like this generation, they're not afraid to ask questions. They're not afraid to approach and be assertive, and get to the point of what it is that they need to know.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's just it's really it's fun to learn about the different generations and being aware of how they approach and how they work. And I think that is the biggest challenge, but the greatest pleasure when we do get to understand how we all function and how we all communicate, and being able to dig into how we can work alongside each other. That organizations are becoming so advanced, they're becoming so innovative, because the old box, the old structure, the way of corporate or building a business is completely flipped over nowadays. And so that's why you get breakthrough coaches. You're getting people coming in and taking the time to really contribute to
Right.
the mission, to the purpose, to the structure, where they never had that before. Do you remember a time, Jim, when they would have coaches or they'd have people from outside doing these massive collaborations?
Uh, I remember getting that coaching. It tended to be generally not team, but individual development. And My suspicion was being in sales and marketing, it was about subtly trying to increase performance. Um, what I found was if I were to venture this, I would say it follows the old 80-20 rule. 80% of the recipients said, oh, that's fine and dandy, and a month later had forgotten that had even happened. I was one of the other 20 that paid attention because I found that not only was it powerful for what I did in business, but it was powerful on the personal side. So, for instance, if we got Karis negotiating at a seminar, right? How to negotiate to yes. Well, that would stick with most people for a little while. Me, I started buying suits by negotiating and making ridiculous offers and nibbling for ties, at zero cost, things like that. And I found that by testing it, it really did work. And I got a lot better about listening to my clients so that they didn't have to negotiate quite so hard and to
Right.
know, yeah, there's a middle ground where we both benefit. And it's a win-win as opposed to a
Yeah.
win-loss scenario, which was so common in the thinking of that day. So yeah, I have seen some of that. Very interesting. But I think the goal sets have moved, the bar has moved a bit in my time. And with your particular thing of, 4 to 5 generations you're dealing with, and the pace of business, and that business in general is moving to teamwork, where teamwork is about everything and individual autonomy to contribute is a very important emotional consideration, a fulfillment consideration for the employee. That didn't exist in my day.
No.
The emotion, the feedback was, hey, you got a paycheck and you have benefits, right?
Right.
A lot different.
It is. Be happy, right? Be happy with that. You got a paycheck
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
get a
What else do
pension.
you
You got,
want?
what else do you want? What else does it matter? And I think there's positive benefits to that too. What else do you want? Like, right?
Right.
That's good. You got a paycheck, you got a pension. Your life
Yeah.
means like even more beyond just
Yeah.
that. But to be grateful for the paycheck and the pension is
Right.
to be grateful for what you are getting too
Right.
is a jewel. Mhm.
But, the pace of innovation is so much faster now. And I think businesses have finally realized, it's not individuals that are making that happen, it's teams. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's an individual who may have the vision, but you got to implement it, and that person may not be up to the job on their own. So, yes, I think it's going to be a lot more common that we do that. And I think the rules of the road, so to speak, about satisfaction for employees, how you work together, teamwork dynamics and stuff are so very different. But we'll conquer it, and I think it's going to produce some good results down the road.
Oh, it sure will. It's really interesting. And so when you get into this, the disc profiling and knowing who's on your team, of
Right,
how you can excel and really move forward as a company, as an organization, when you know
right.
that you have your persuasive driver. You have your persuasive driver that knows how to carry the team forward, like carries that vision. So establishing that vision of why we're doing what we're doing, who are we doing it for, and
Hmm.
why does it matter? And knowing that you have somebody else on the team that maybe not as directive, hardcore CEO type, but still is really good, with motivation and good with people that can carry the team along. And then you have your other person that loves processes and systems
Hmm.
that can keep everybody in order and accountability, right? There's all these breakdown of components. And then you have your C, your person that is very conscious, likes to be very procedural, knows wants the ins and the outs and the data carried out appropriately and distributed to each one to have understanding. And so as you build teams and organizations with the components of who you need for where you're going is a lot of fun and very powerful.
Right. So, you talk a bit in on your website and stuff about things like mindset mastery
Yeah.
and being resilient. Maybe we should talk about those because one's perspective really helps drive, what they envision as possible, as well as their, you know, ability to really achieve that, to hold themselves accountable. On the other hand, we all know there's bumps in life, whether it be in business, in life in general, on a personal level. If you haven't been through those trying times, you probably don't have a history and an understanding how resilient you really can be. So maybe you can give us a glimmer about where those fit in with your consulting practice, how that works, and so forth.
Oh yeah, I love jumping into mindset mastery because really mindset mastery is just that, Jim, is helping people to see where they have had breakthrough. Everybody has had to learn something, grow in some way, overcome a challenge. And
Mhm.
you know what? I take it down to the very basic principle of learning how to ride a bike because everybody has learned how to ride a bike,
Right.
right? And I'm going to say 99.9% of the people have become successful at riding a bike. Wouldn't you agree?
Mostly, yeah.
Right? So people get stuck in not knowing how. They get stuck in not being certain about the outcome. And so they get fearful and they get doubtful and then they withdraw back from what it is that they really want and they begin to really sabotage. They sabotage their relationships, they sabotage their finances, they sabotage their business, they sabotage pretty much everything based upon the fact that they don't know how to do something. They think they don't know how to do something. But the way that we do one thing is really the way that we do everything. We all have learning strategies. We either have a learning strategy of success or a learning strategy of failure. And so, where I want to focus on always with people is their learning strategy of success
Mhm.
and taking it step by step of the basic principles of learning how to ride a bike. First, the very first step with learning how to ride a bike is having an awareness that there's people riding bikes. When you're a child and you see people riding bikes, you're going, oh, isn't that interesting? That looks like fun. I would like to learn how to do that, right?
Right.
Right? The next thing is that you have to get a bike and you get a desire for getting a bike and learning how to ride it. So your first one is an awareness, and the next one is the desire. Where is your desire to actually learn how to do something new or to
Mhm.
receive an outcome or to do that? Like how big is that desire to do that? And so we enhance that desire. We get that to a burning place of purpose and reason for what it is that we're doing it. And then we talk about how you have to bring people alongside of you to learn something that you've never done before. So who in your life is doing what it is that you want to do? And who are they doing it really well? Who's doing it really well? And how can you reach out to them, whether it's listening to podcasts like yourself as an expert in your field and all the experience that you have and that you're offering, like reaching out to those people, those experts that are doing what you want to do so that it's going to apply to that principle of desire and to get that really, heightened. And so we go through these principles of learning how to drive, ride a bike into every area of your life and getting and shifting people's vibrational state, getting people to shift their belief and saying, oh, just like you were successful in getting a degree or just like you were going through a divorce and it was a really hard time and it was horrible and you didn't think that you were going to make it through, but you did. And let's look at the ways of what you did to be able to come out of that situation. And those, they're all the same. They find people or people find them or the situation that come alongside of them that have gone through that situation, right? And
Mhm.
you've allowed them to speak into your life or you've invited them to come alongside you and mentor you. And just like we were talking before we began the podcast, right, that you helped somebody build them up in their career and what they're doing, and now they're helping you, doing what you're doing today. And so I focus on with people in that if they get stuck, they have unbelief or they're uncertain about the outcome, they have outcome in their life. They have successes. They may be smaller. We forget so often about those successes.
Right.
that we get overwhelmed with the current circumstance of what it is that we don't know. So what I do is I take those some modalities, I take those emotional strings of vibration. Everything is energy. I believe everything is energy. Energy comes from what I believe as God. And energy is always looking to express and expand itself. It never dies, it never goes away. But we get to use that energy, in our memory of what has happened to us in the past, and we can apply it to our principles of understanding and desire and awareness to where we are right now and where we're going, and we can move that forward.
Right.
So by looking at a purpose, by looking at an awareness, by building up that desire and what it means, and carrying a person's success of where they're coming from into the now, and anchoring that emotional state, anchoring like, Jim, when you graduated, or actually let's just do this for fun. Let's say that you're stuck in
Is this
not
a
knowing
test?
how to build a, yeah, let's say let's use this idea of something that you're wanting to build that you don't know how, and you feel you can make it up. I don't care. Just that you just don't know how to do it. Let's work through this.
Okay. All right. Um, One of the things I'm trying to do is learn to be better at social marketing on LinkedIn and Facebook. And I find the performance of those systems not terribly intuitive. Um, I was always one of the guys who asked the engineers, well, okay, have you tried to test this with people that aren't engineers? Because your view of how it'll be received is very drastically different than theirs. And you're not going to be the big buyers. Nobody's going to survive on what you're going to spend. So you have to satisfy them. And that's what I look for is that intuitive feel. Apple has made an entire business of nothing but that. They created this concept of, well, it's the user experience. Yeah, there's high tech behind it, but they've done a really good job at that. Other people seem more disconnected, or they pick a slice and they say, oh, well, it's all about the technology. You worry about how it gets sold or used or whatever. So I struggle with LinkedIn and Facebook, and I've got this friend, Fred McMurray at Westbine, who helps me get through some of that. So I have to ask for help, and that's one of the things is I don't like to ask for help. Most people don't. We want to think we're all self-sufficient. Well, we're never ever totally far enough up the learning curve. We're never fully competent in every area, but the challenge is still there. So rather than waste energy and resources on being frustrated, I'd rather, get some help. And so that's been working for me, but I admit it's a struggle. And I think will continue to be.
And it will continue to be because it's a challenge, right?
Yes,
I always like to reframe words because words are very powerful. Words are powerful things when I talk about energy, and it's not a woo-woo thing. It's a very scientific person. I'm a faith-based person, so I don't like woo-woo crazy stuff, but I've learned that there's scientific aspects. One, that we're intellectual. We all have intellectual minds for us to think on, right? We live out of a physical body and we're spiritual beings, and all those things have to come into alignment together to really operate forward in what it is that we want. So, where I would start with you, Jim, if we had a one-on-one session was, what is the outcome? Like, what is the big purpose of what it is that you're creating, and really get a clear picture of who your ideal client is, what they look like. And you mentioned that. So I would dig into that a little bit more so that you could see that person of who it is that you're wanting to speak directly to, because you can't speak to everybody. You want to
right.
speak to, there's people that are going to take to you, right? The way that you speak, what you talk about, how
Mhm.
fast you talk, how slow you talk. There's a certain group of people out there that you want to communicate with. And so when it comes to social media, you want to get really clear on who that ideal client is. And sometimes we resist that because we don't really want to be talking to our own person. We think, well, I want to reach people beyond myself.
Right.
But we want to go for the place of least resistance. right?
Mhm.
Something that, you can give naturally, that you're not working so hard and being strained too much when you are learning a new technique or you're learning a new field. You really want to go with what is most natural to you, and who you're going to speak to is going to be the person that is closest to who you are and what you've
Right.
experienced.
Right.
And so taking past experiences of when you learned something new. And so I'd go take you back to, when was the time that stepped into a new field, that you had to learn a new technique, or you had to create something. And we go back to how you did it step by step. How did you get that outcome that you wanted?
Right.
And so you'll find, so what, by listening and by you being able to talk about it, we would come up and formulate your learning strategy of success, because your learning strategy of success, the way that you've done it all along, is the exact same way that you're going to do it going forward with what you're learning, but adding tools, adding the ideas of bringing people into your life and leveraging your time, your finances, your emotion, your
Right.
creativity,
Right.
and bringing them forward.
Yeah.
And that gives you the motivation, right?
Right.
By piecing those together and creating a clarity around a vision around that purpose of what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah. One of the things that I find interesting in my exposure online is that, for instance, if you drop into Reddit, certain groups there talk about the challenges of their career, their life balance, those sorts of things. And I find it interesting that they're very vocal about being discouraged and stuck and things like that. And clearly, they haven't been introduced to the idea that this is to be expected. You're not going to be in high performance mode, from age 22 to retirement at 65. It just does not work that way. Uh, and that they don't appear to have been told that, difficulty is expected. There are speed bumps, but look at those of us that have gone through. We recalibrated our goals. We got past the speed bump. We redefined. We brought resilience and tenacity to the fore. And here we are, 10, 20 years later. Um, I don't think that message is getting out there, at least not enough for some. And you talk about resilience. What do you see in that particular arena yourself?
Yeah, well, it's going back to our original discussion about the different
Right.
generations, right? And understanding that we all
Hmm.
can contribute to people that are resilient and going through the hard times. Then you have the millennials, and even before that, where life was pretty easy going and we didn't really have to work too hard to get things, right? And then we have a generation now that they're now they're experiencing more uncertainty and more unrest than any generation, going through COVID, right? And then a market crash, crashing experience, and now wars on every side of the factor, with the society still coming out of COVID. Like it's crazy. So they're having to now learn how to communicate, because they were shut in for 4 or 5 years, right? Learning how to, build a confidence and a resilience to go after what it is that they want, or create some kind of future. Jim, I read in my book about a new kind of diversity. Not my book, but a book that I'm reading, that children that are in school now, 65% of the careers haven't even been created yet.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
No, not really.
Right? It's like, wow, I'm in school and I like more than half the careers and jobs aren't even created yet. Like, what am I going to what do I look for? Like, what hope is there for me in my future? So resilience is something that society right now is having to really build muscle into it. And so for myself, building resilience is, again, I'm banking on the things that I've experienced, on my life lessons.
Right.
The things, I'm not dwelling on the things where I failed, because there's no failure, but the things that were hard, and like, I didn't choose those experiences. You didn't choose to have those hard things that happen, because life happens. but you got through it because you are where you are today. And everything that has happened to you prior brought you up to where you are right now. And so by learning that those
Right.
challenges were building resistance gives me the motivation to try something new, to go on further. And when
Right.
you're at the end of their career, because so many people that I work with in real estate, my ideal client is the ones that have achieved. They've like really gotten the outcome. They've built a legacy, they've built their home, raised their family. Now they're looking to downsize. Where are they going to settle in the community? And what
Mhm.
will that mean? Like, how can I still contribute? How can I still have purpose in the season that I'm in? And so part of even helping people to find houses and communities, I'm speaking into the purpose, because human beings, we were built with that factor, because we were built with the mind of God and the likeness of God. There's always purpose and always looking for further expression, um, and growth in our lives. And so we, no matter what season we're in, we need to look at, where we've come out of. What has our life been, and how can I contribute? How can I add? What will it mean in this next season? Your job ends, but that's not who you are. When I finish being in real estate, that's not my life. I'm not a realtor, right? But I'll be
Right.
looking to see what that greater purpose is. So I think that's resilience, is the understanding of how life has been lived, good, bad, or ugly. What am I going to do with it? What am I going to make beautiful of it? What am I
Right.
going to do to contribute to society, or to mentor other people, or, continue to bring meaning, to life, no matter what phase and stage I'm in.
Well, it's great that you're helping people through these issues and helping them see another way. I'm sure everybody is very glad they can reach out to you. For those that don't yet have that ability, maybe you want to refresh them for how they can reach out to you and contact you.
Oh yeah, I would love for people to reach out and to get in touch with that purpose and that why, and bring that motivation to life. You can reach out to me on Instagram and Facebook. New Doors Mentorship and Coaching.com is my website. And then on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn is all under the same New Doors
Okay,
Mentorship and Coaching.
great, great. Well, good luck on your political career.
That's another topic for another
And
day,
yeah,
right?
well, we'll have to try that on the next podcast. Okay.
I would love that. I would really love that and be honored to
Yeah,
talk about community contribution through political
there you
situations and
go.
circumstances.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks for your visit with us here at Vision in Action today. We look forward to seeing you again.
Oh, thanks, Jim.
So as we wrap up our program today, I want to thank our guest, Ms. Grace Simon, for her participation. She had some good insights for us. And thank you for attending today at Vision in Action Live. And we hope you found it revealing. Vision in Action Live podcasts focus on interviews with subject matter experts and people that are leading self-directed lives, so you can see how others accomplish what you might like to do. Check out the free materials, newsletters, podcasts, and reference materials at lifelongfulfillment.com. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, your favorite podcast channel, and KFRED Internet Radio. Again, I'm Jim Boswell, your host. You can reach me at jim@lifelongfulfillment.com. Until next time, think about empowering yourself for the changes that you want.